Welcome to the Heartbreak Chronicles, where every story is a raw reflection of life. Hit that subscribe button to stay tuned, give us a like to show your support, and share this episode with your friends. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know what you think. Now, let's dive into today's story. My name is Leo and I am a night nurse in the emergency room at St. Mary's Hospital. After 10 years of marriage, I thought I knew my wife Olivia, until that fateful night completely turned my world upside down. That night was supposed to be my regular 12-hour night shift. However, the emergency room was unusually quiet, with very few patients. At 3 a.m., the supervisor looked at our group of nurses who had nothing better to do. Waving his hand, "It's been too quiet tonight, so you guys get off early." I was ecstatic, thinking I could go home and get a good night's sleep. As I pushed open the door to the house, I was filled with anticipation of surprising Olivia. However, I was greeted by an eerie silence. "Olivia?" I called softly, with no response. The bedroom door was ajar, and a faint sound came from within. I pushed the door open and the scene before me sobered me instantly. Olivia was naked and straddling a strange man. The man was muscular and looked like a gym regular. "Leo!" screamed Olivia in horror. "What are you doing back here?" I froze in place, my mind going blank. The man was calm and sat up slowly. "Who are you?" I questioned, my voice shaking with anger. "My name is Luke, and I'm a personal trainer at CrossFit Gym." He shrugged indifferently. "You must be Leo. Olivia talks about you a lot." I rushed at Luke and swung my fist into his face. But he was obviously much stronger than me and easily dodged my attacks. Backhanded me. I stumbled back, knocking over the nightstand. "Leo, stop it." Olivia screamed. "You can't beat Luke." "I don't care." I charged Luke again. This time he showed no mercy and punched me square in the stomach. I fell to the floor in agony and curled up into a ball. "Enough!" Olivia shouted. "Luke, you go first." Luke nodded, got dressed, and left. Olivia puts on her robe and looks at me coldly. "Leo, you are such a disappointment to me," she said. "I had thought you wouldn't be back tonight. So you took the opportunity to betray me?" I said through gritted teeth. "Don't be so curmudgeonly, Leo," Olivia said dismissively. "We've been married for 10 years. Do you really think I can put up with you working night shifts day in and day out? Putting up with your humdrum sex life?" I struggled to my feet, a sharp pain in my chest. "I want a divorce," I said. Olivia suddenly smiled, a smile that sent shivers down my spine. "Divorce? Don't you dare, Leo." She stepped closer. "Imagine if everyone knew you were an incompetent husband. If you can't even satisfy your wife, do you have the face to see others? What will your coworkers think of you? What will your patients think? Your career will be ruined." I stared in disbelief. "Are you threatening me?" "Brilliant," Olivia sneered. "So be a good boy and shut up and pretend nothing happened. Otherwise, I'll show the world what a loser you are." I leaned helplessly against the wall, feeling breathless. Olivia approaches and caresses my cheek. "Don't feel bad, honey. As long as you listen, we can still maintain superficial harmony. You keep on being the good husband you are, and I'll be a good wife and mother. Everybody's good, aren't they?" I pushed her hand away and stumbled out of the bedroom. I need fresh air. I need to think. But most of all, I need help. The next night, I arrived at the hospital early and found Emma, my most trusted coworker. "Emma, I need your advice," I said, my voice hoarse. Emma looked at me with concern. "What's wrong, Leo? You look awful." I took a deep breath and told her exactly what happened last night, saying it felt better than I thought it would, as if 1,000 pounds had been lifted. Emma listened and was silent for a moment. Then she took my hand. "Leo, you can't just let it go. Olivia's behavior is outrageous." "But she threatened me," I said feebly. "Then fight back," Emma said firmly. "You need to show her that you're not a bully." I laughed bitterly. "How can I fight back? I can't even beat that Luke." A hint of cunning flashed in Emma's eyes. "Who says you have to use your fists to fight back? Use your head, Leo. You're smarter than Olivia. You'll figure it out." I pondered Emma's words and suddenly had a flash of insight. "You're right, Emma. I can't just admit defeat. Over the next few days, I began my plan to fight back. First, I quietly spread rumors around the neighborhood that Olivia was constantly bringing strange men home. I knew it was mean, but I couldn't care less. Then I started searching the internet for various ways to get back at my cheating partner. I ordered some props: fluorescent pink spray paint, plastic ties, stun gun. Every time I get a package, I carefully hide it in the garage, afraid Olivia would find out. Meanwhile, I acted as if nothing had happened and continued to play the role of a dutiful husband. Olivia also seemed to let her guard down, thinking I'd actually given in. But unbeknownst to her, my plan for revenge was already brewing. I'm going to make her and that Luke pay and show them that I, Leo, am no bully. Just as I was about to execute my plan, Emma pulled me aside. Leo, I know what you're planning, but remember, don't do anything illegal. Revenge hurts, but it's not worth losing your life. I nodded, but in my mind I was thinking, Emma, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to let you down. Because in my mind, I already had a crazier, more extreme plan. I want Luke and Olivia to remember that lesson forever. The pink spray paint is just the beginning. The real revenge is just kicking off. The day of the program has finally arrived. I took a day off work and lied about not feeling well. Olivia was unconcerned by this, even relieved, because it means she has more time with Luke. I ducked in my car and parked across the street from the CrossFit gym. Luke finally shows up at midnight, alone, locking the gym door. I followed quietly, my heart beating wildly. When Luke walked into a dimly lit alley, I knew the opportunity was there. I put on my gloves and pulled the stun gun out of my pocket. Taking a deep breath, I rushed forward. Hey, Luke, I yelled. He turned around with a confused look on his face. At that very moment, I pulled the trigger. The stun gun makes a piercing crackling sound and Luke convulses, then falls to the ground. I moved quickly to tie his arms and legs with plastic ties. Luke was still unconscious and I dragged him into my rented van. Everything went so well, I could hardly believe it. I drove back to the gym. Thanks to Luke's carelessness, his keys are still hanging out of his pants. I easily opened the back door and dragged him into the locker room. Now is the time to witness the miracle. I got out the pink spray paint and started my art. From head to toe, I carefully sprayed Luke a bright pink color. His muscles, the six-pack he was so proud of, were now a ridiculous shade of pink. When I was done, I stood there admiring my masterpiece. Luke looks like a giant bubblegum sculpture, ridiculous and hilarious. I couldn't help but laugh, a laugh filled with the thrill of revenge. I took a few pictures to send to Olivia afterward. Then I untied Luke and put him in a humiliating position. Finally, I wrote on his chest in spray paint, I am a liar and a thief. Just as I was about to leave, Luke suddenly woke up. He opened his eyes and looked at his pink body in confusion. What's going on here? He muttered. Then he saw me. You, he roared, struggling to get up. But suddenly, his expression changed. His face began to contort and his hands clutched at his chest. I can't breathe. Luke gasped. I stood there, horrified at it all. It wasn't in the plan. Luke's face turned pale, and his breathing became more and more rapid. Help! Help me! He uttered the words with difficulty before collapsing to the ground, no longer moving. I panicked. What have I done? It was just a prank, a plan to humiliate him. I never wanted to take his life. I stood up shakily, my brain a mess. I have to get out of here. I wiped off any fingerprints I might have left and fled the scene. When I got home, I immediately rushed into the bathroom and frantically washed off any spray paint I might have gotten on me. The water washed over me, but it couldn't wash away the fear and guilt I felt inside. The next morning, the news comes in with news of Luke's death. Reports say he was found in a gym locker room covered in pink paint. Police suspect it was an accidental death caused by a prank. Olivia turned pale when she saw the news. She looked at me with suspicion and fear, but she didn't say anything. For the next few days, I lived in a constant state of fear of wisdom. Every time I hear a siren, I think the police are coming to get me. I started losing sleep and couldn't concentrate at work. Emma noticed my abnormality. Leo, are you okay? She asked, You've been distracted since what happened with Luke. I forced out a smile. I'm fine, just a little tired. But Emma clearly doesn't believe it. She frowned and said, Leo, you know you can trust me, right? No matter what happens, I've got your back. I nearly broke down and almost had to confess everything to Emma, but I restrained myself in time. I can't involve Emma in this. Just then, two police officers walked into the emergency room. They came straight at me. Mr. Leo Mercer? One of the policemen asked. My heart almost stopped. Yes, I am. I replied with difficulty. We need to ask you a few questions. Can you come with us regarding the death of Luke Thompson? I felt a wave of vertigo, but nodded. Emma looked at me worriedly, and I squeezed a smile at her, hoping to reassure her. At the police station, I was taken to an interrogation room. Sitting across from me was a serious-faced female detective. Mr. Mercer, she spoke up, we understand that you and the deceased Luke Thompson had some conflicts. Can you tell us what's going on? I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. Yes, my wife had an affair with Luke, but I never meant to hurt him. The detective's sharp gaze fixed on me. Where were you that night? I'm home. I said, I called in sick and slept all night. Can anyone prove it? I shook my head. Olivia wasn't home that night and I had absolutely no alibi. The interrogation went on for hours, but they finally let me go. Apparently, they didn't have enough evidence to arrest me. But I know I'm still the prime suspect. When I got home, I found Olivia packing. Where are you going? I asked. She gave me a cold look. I'm moving in with my parents for a while. I need time to think things over. Think what? Wondering if I'm married to a murderer. She said pointedly. I felt a wave of anger well up in me. She's the one who betrayed me, and now she wants to play the victim? Look, Olivia, I said calmly, you can leave if you want. But don't forget, if you say anything, I'll tell everyone about your cheating. Let's see whose reputation will be worse when the time comes. Olivia froze, obviously not expecting me to say that. She glared at me, then silently continued packing. That night, I sat alone in my empty house, thinking about what to do next. I knew the police would come back for me, and I needed a better alibi. Suddenly, something came to me. I picked up my cell phone and dialed Emma's number. Emma, I said over the phone, my voice filled with desperation. I need your help. Emma didn't hesitate for a second. Of course, Leo. Tell me what happened. I took a deep breath and told Emma the whole story. From Luke's accidental death, to the police investigation, to the dilemma of my lack of an alibi. Emma listened quietly, then said, Leo, I have an idea. Emma's program is simple, but could be very effective. She suggested that I did stay home from work that night due to illness, and that she had stopped by to visit me after work. That way, she can be a witness that I was home all night resting. But I hesitated. Isn't that a lie? Leo, Emma's voice turned serious. I know you didn't kill Luke. Sometimes, in the interest of justice, we need to do something less conformist. I was silent for a moment before finally nodding my head in agreement with Emma's plan. The next day, Emma contacted the police and gave her statement. She described in detail how she stopped by on her way home from work to visit me who was sick, even brought some cold medicine and hot soup. Her testimony seemed impeccable, and the police's suspicions were temporarily dispelled. However, despite this temporary respite, my heart was still not at peace. Every time I see Olivia, I'm reminded of that horrible night and Luke's death. I began to wonder if there was any chance of saving our marriage. It was at this point that Olivia's attitude suddenly changed. From her initial anger and skepticism, she became unusually gentle and considerate. Leo, I'm so sorry, she said, tears in her eyes. I shouldn't have doubted you. I knew you couldn't have done something like that. I eyed her warily, wondering what she was up to. But Olivia seems to be really trying to fix our relationship. She started to prepare a loving bento for me every day and give me a warm hug when she came home at night. However, my instincts tell me it's not that simple. My suspicions were soon confirmed. One night, I pretended to go to my night shift and actually hid near my house. Sure enough, it wasn't long before an unfamiliar car pulled up in front of our house. A tall man got out of his car and gingerly opened the door to my house with his key. I recognized him. It was another trainer at the CrossFit gym named Jack. I waited quietly until I was sure Jack had entered the house. Then I quietly followed. I heard voices coming from the bedroom. Cautiously, I approached the door of the room, and through the crack, I saw a scene that broke my heart. Olivia is hugging Jack passionately. Is the plan all set? I hear Olivia ask. Jack nodded. It's all set. We'll stick to the plan tomorrow night. Leo won't know what's going on. Great. Olivia gave a sinister smile. When we make it, we can get the insurance money and be together forever. I felt a wave of vertigo. Instead of repenting, Olivia is plotting to murder me. I silently exited the house with a sense of anger and betrayal. The next day, I took a leave of absence from the hospital and lied that I was not feeling well. I need time to think about how to respond to Olivia and Jack's plot. Just as I was racking my brain, Emma called me. Leo, are you okay? She asked with concern. I heard you took a vacation. I hesitated, then decided to confess everything to Emma. I told her about Olivia and Jack's plot. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment. Then Emma said firmly, Leo, we have to stop them. I have an idea. Emma's plan is simple. We're going to play the trick and make Olivia and Jack eat their own. That night, I came home from work at the usual time. Emma hid in the car, ready to call the police. I walked into the house and acted as if nothing had happened. Olivia, I'm home, I said out loud. Just then I heard a rattling from the back door. Jack bursts in, wearing a mask and holding a knife. Don't move, he yelled. Hand over the money. I pretended to panic and held up my hands. Olivia screams and runs aside, but I notice a flash of anticipation in her eyes. Just as Jack closed in on me, I sprang into action. I quickly pulled the stun gun out of my pocket, the same one I used on Luke. Before Jack could react, I pulled the trigger. Jack convulsed and fell to the ground. Olivia screamed, this time in genuine panic. Leo, what have you done? She shouted. I looked at her calmly. I just subdued a home invader, Olivia. Don't you think it's strange? Why would I have a stun gun with me? Olivia's face turned instantly pale. Just then, sirens blared and Emma rushed in with the police. Police. Freeze. The next scene was a mess. The police arrested Jack, who was still unconscious, and also took Olivia in for questioning. Instead, I was asked to remain at the scene to assist in the investigation. Detective Smith, an experienced female detective, questioned me carefully about what happened that night. Mr. Mercer, she said, can you explain why you carry a stun gun with you? I took a deep breath and gave a helpless smile. Detective, I've been feeling unsafe since the incident with Luke. I was worried that someone would come to take revenge on me, so I bought this stun gun to protect myself. I didn't expect it to really come in handy today. Detective Smith nodded thoughtfully. I understand. However, Mr. Mercer, your wife's behavior seems suspicious. She seemed to have knowledge of this home invasion. Do you have any opinion on that? I acted shocked. What? That's impossible. How could Olivia? Wait, could she? Detective Smith's sharp gaze fixed on me. We have reason to believe that your wife may be suspected of planning this incident. We need to investigate further. Over the next few days, the police delved into Olivia and Jack's relationship. They found a large number of call logs and text messages that proved the two had been conspiring for a long time. Ultimately, both Olivia and Jack were charged with attempted murder and insurance fraud. When Olivia was taken away, she looked at me with hatred. Leo, you asshole. You knew, didn't you? I calmly replied, Olivia, I'm just protecting myself, just like you always do. The case was quickly closed. Both Olivia and Jack pleaded guilty in exchange for lesser sentences. I, on the other hand, was completely cleared. Luke's case was also put on hold for lack of evidence. Although I am still tormented inside, at least legally, I am innocent. Divorce proceedings began quickly. I gained ownership of the house and the sympathy of my neighbors. They all think I'm a betrayed wretch, not a murderer. However, when the dust settled and I was sitting alone in an empty house, I felt more alone than ever. I picked up my cell phone, hesitated, and then dialed Emma's number. Hey Emma, I said, my voice shaking a little. Do you have a minute? I think I need to talk to someone. Emma's soft voice came through. Of course, Leo. I'm here anytime. Want me to come over? I felt a wave of warmth rush over me. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Emma, for always being there for me. After hanging up the phone, I walked over to the window and looked out into the night. I know that this is just a new beginning. Whatever the future holds, at least I know that I am not alone. Emma will be here soon, and I, at last, can take off all my pretenses and be my true self. Perhaps this is the salvation I've been looking for. Emma arrived at my house soon after. I felt a wave of relief as she walked through the door. We sat in the living room and I began to pour out all the troubles and internal struggles that had been going on for a while. Leo, Emma said gently, you've been through so much. What you need most now is time to heal. But you also need to find a direction, a goal that will allow you to start over. I nodded, but my mind was still in a daze. Emma's words made sense, but I still didn't know how to begin. Just then, my cell phone rang. It's a news tweet. Local CrossFit gym about to close due to scandal. I froze. This is Luke's gym. Emma noticed the change in my expression. What's wrong, Leo? I handed her my cell phone to look at. Emma read it and said thoughtfully, maybe. That's a chance? What chance? I asked, confused. A chance to start over, Emma explains. You've been feeling guilty about Luke, haven't you? Maybe you can do something to help not only others, but yourself as well. It was at that moment that an idea came to me. Maybe I could do something to make up for it. The next day, I took off work and started researching how to transform the soon-to-be defunct gym into a community healthcare station and charity gym. As a nurse, I know that many people are unable to get timely medical help because of financial reasons, and a free community health center may be able to change that. I started reaching out to my colleagues at the hospital for support and advice. I also visited local community leaders to talk about my ideas. There were a lot of difficulties and questions, but I didn't give up. Just as I was worried about raising funds, an unexpected visitor showed up. Hello, is this Leo Mercer? A young woman stood in front of me with eyes similar to Luke's. Yes, I am. Are you? I'm Angela Thompson, Luke's sister, she said, with a hint of hesitation in her voice. I hear you're thinking of converting this into a community healthcare station and a public service gym? I nodded, wondering what the purpose of her visit was. Angela took a deep breath. I want to help. It was Luke's most cherished place in life, and I think he would have wanted it to continue to help others. I looked at her in surprise. Don't you hate me? After all. Angela shook her head, a flash of sadness in her eyes. I used to hate, but then I realized that hate solves nothing. Luke made mistakes, and so did you. But now, we all have a chance to do the right thing. And that's how Angela became my partner. She has a background in business management and handles the financial and administrative aspects of the program. Instead, I focus on the planning and implementation of healthcare services. We worked around the clock to transform the old gym into a welcoming and comfortable space. We have set up a basic medical clinic, kept some fitness equipment for rehab, and opened a small nutrition education center. On opening day, I stood in the doorway, looking at the steady stream of neighborhood residents, my heart filled with mixed emotions. I saw the grateful eyes of the elderly and heard the joyful laughter of the children. It all made me feel that there was finally a new meaning in life. Emma came to the opening as well. She gave me a big hug with tears in her eyes. Leo, I am so proud of you. You have found your path to redemption. As time passed, the community healthcare station and the community gym grew to become a landmark in town. We have helped countless people in need and healed ourselves in the process. Angela and I became great friends and partners. We both understand that this relationship is more precious than a romantic relationship. We are all seeking redemption in our own way and helping each other gain inner peace. Sometimes, when it's late at night, I still think of Luke. But now, that pink color no longer makes me feel fear and guilt. Instead, it reminds me of the fragility of life and the fact that we all have the opportunity to make mistakes and correct them. One day, after examining an elderly man, I walked out of the clinic and saw Angela instructing a group of children in calisthenics. The sunlight poured through the window on them, and the whole scene was full of life and hope. I suddenly realized that this is life. It can be traumatizing and painful, but it can also give us the opportunity for a fresh start. And true redemption is not running away from the past, but facing it head-on and trying to create a better future. On this path of redemption, I have found inner peace and a new direction for my life. While the shadows of the past may never fully dissipate, I know that by moving on, the sun will eventually dispel the darkness. Recently, I started thinking about inviting Olivia to visit our community healthcare station. Despite all that has happened between us, I think she deserves a chance to see the possibility of change and redemption as well. Maybe one day we can all truly let go of the past and start over. When I shared this idea with Emma, she nodded approvingly. Leo, this proves that you have really grown. Forgiveness is not only a gift given to others, but also to yourself. I know it's a long road to redemption, but I am no longer alone. There is Emma's friendship, Angela's support, and this hopeful community healthcare site. I believe I can move on and grow, and maybe one day I will actually be able to fully forgive myself and forgive others. And that, perhaps, is the greatest meaning of life. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's story. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a story to share about your own or someone else's experience, please feel free to contact me. Take care.